הטרור של הוועדה הבריטית המשולבת למודיעין, ובימים אלה הוא מבקר אצלנו. קולונל ריצ'רד קמפ, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a great pleasure to be here.
When you hear the international community criticizing Israel military handling mass protests in Gaza, do you think that the United Kingdom will act differently when terrorists threatening the country borders?
Unfortunately, it's always the same way when Israel has to defend itself against terrorists on its borders or even terrorists within its own borders. There's always global condemnation from many countries and from many international organizations. And normally it is false condemnation. And Israel is invariably accused of being disproportionate in its use of force, when in fact Israel leads the world, really, in carrying out effective military action against its enemies while minimizing the deaths of innocent civilians.
When you hear the international criticism, you in 2009 testified before the Goldstone Committee in the UN Council of Human Rights. Do you believe that there will be another Goldstone Committee after Gaza?
I wouldn't be at all surprised if there isn't. The United States has fortunately blocked the efforts so far to institute an inquest or an examination by the United Nations. But unfortunately, I suspect it will get beyond that, and there will be another international investigation. And the conclusions of that investigation are foregone, as they were with Goldstone, as they were with the investigation into the last Gaza conflict. The people that run these things, the United Nations, is an organization that is totally biased against Israel. They're not interested in Israel's side, they're not interested in the truth, they're interested in one thing, and that is condemning Israel.
Yes, based on your experience in Afghanistan and different war zones, what is the best way to combat the Islamic terror nowadays?
Well, I was on the border with Gaza all day on Friday, and I was near Nahal Oz, near one of the biggest flashpoints of violence on the Gaza border. And it was a very similar situation, not the same in every respect, but very similar to situations that I have dealt with when I was commanding British soldiers, particularly in Northern Ireland, facing violent rioters who wanted to wreak damage and destruction and death, and also had terrorists in among their numbers, armed terrorists with guns and bombs. And we, like the IDF, deployed snipers to deal with those terrorist threats as well. And what I saw on the border impressed me enormously. I saw, first of all, I was aware that Israel had taken action to warn people not to come down and get involved in this. And secondly, then they employed a graduated response, which started off with tear gas and then other means, eventually, in some cases, having to resort to live fire. And that is a sort of graduated response that I think every country would have to employ in this sort of situation. We shouldn't forget that this is not a peaceful demonstration as Hamas pretended it was. It was a deliberate terrorist operation intended to penetrate Israel's borders and kill innocent civilians inside the state of Israel, in the communities like Nahal Oz. And the IDF did, I think, a very effective job in preventing that happening.
I have to ask you, why do you support Israel so much?
Well, Israel is a great ally of Great Britain, and I'm well aware that British lives and the lives of other Europeans and Americans have been saved by Israeli intelligence and Israeli technology, military technology, on many, many occasions. Israel is a great friend to our country, and I believe it's right that we should be as close a friend as we can to Israel. We should back Israel up. And Britain, in many ways, does back Israel up and is on Israel's side. And unfortunately, too often, though, the United Kingdom does conform with international pressure and, for example, sometimes vote against Israel in the UN when it shouldn't really do so. Obviously, no state is beyond criticism, but certainly in this realm, in the realm of security and defense, Israel is a world leader, and Israel is seen as an example by many generals from Britain, from America and other countries who come over here to learn how Israel deals with these threats so they can then transfer some of Israel's methods to their own armed forces.
Okay, Colonel Richard Kemp, thank you for your support and for this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
סוף סוף אנחנו שומעים גם קולות אחרים שמחמיאים לצבא שלנו, אומרים שהוא המוסרי ביותר.
אני מאוד שמחה לשמוע את הדברים, לצערי על כל אחד כזה יש מאות מנבלי פה ומדברי שטויות